What is up, everybody? So we got dry January or sober January coming up here in about a week or two, where people go the month of January without drinking. And I want to make this video just talking about alcohol and how it's really impacted me growing up, and how it's been something that's kind of, in a sense, controlled me and really had a grip on my life throughout high school, college, into my early 20s. And I feel like I'm finally at a point in my life now where I have control over it, and it's less of something where my life revolves around it, but more so a complement to my life. So I just want to kind of talk through the different phases of my life and how alcohol played an impact in each phase, and then give you guys some tips and advice that has worked for me as far as kind of separating myself from alcohol and really just taking away some of the power that it had over me, because it was something that, you know, for so many years of my life, my life really did revolve around it. You know, I started drinking probably freshman going into sophomore year of high school. That was the first time I really got drunk and really experienced alcohol. And from then on, it was pretty much just, you know, balls to the walls. You know, there was no stopping it. It was every weekend, at least one night, typically 2 nights out of the weekend, was binge drinking, getting drunk with my friends. In high school, I hung out with some of the upperclassmen as, you know, a freshman, sophomore. I think that is kind of how I was introduced to alcohol at a younger point, and why it was so accessible to me. And then, you know, as I went throughout high school, I was hanging out with a group of guys and just a group of people that all drank a lot, did stupid high school stuff. You know, it was fun. But, you know, looking back, definitely made some stupid, dangerous, risky decisions back then. But I got to college, joined a fraternity, and, you know, anyone who knows anything about Greek life, fraternities, sororities, knows that it's pretty much drinking nonstop, at least where I went to school. And the drinking got even worse. I mean, it was one of those situations where I was drinking 3-4 nights a week, and it was heavy drinking too. It was like not just drinking to get drunk, but like drinking to get like blacked out almost. And what's so strange is that it was so encouraged. Like we would get really drunk, and don't get me wrong, we had a lot of fun, and I don't regret those days. I didn't you know, make any big life screw ups that like completely altered my path of my life or anything like that. You know, I had a lot of fun, but you know, we would get so drunk, and it was like encouraged. It was like fun for us, right? You know, we laugh and joke about, you know, who was doing what when they were drunk and stupid. And you know, I think that's one of the reasons why quitting drinking, or at least cutting back on it, is so difficult, is because it's so encouraged and so accepted in our society. You know, harder drugs, there's a stigma about them, right? But, you know, alcohol, it's so accessible. Everybody does it. It's almost encouraged or accepted at a young age, even if it's not, you know, legal then. And I think that's why it's so hard to get away from, because, you know, foundations are kind of built on it. And that's how it was for me, certainly. And I really didn't notice a problem or realize the gravity of it until my first relationship in college, my first like serious girlfriend. We dated for 1.5 years, almost 2 years. And after that relationship fell apart, I started looking back on it, and I realized how all of the problems were revolving around alcohol in some way or another. All of the arguments that we were getting into typically were either when we were drunk or were stemming from a situation that happened when we were drunk. You know, going out to the bars when you're in a relationship, you have to act differently than you do as a single guy. And if you're going out to the bars getting drunk 3-4 nights a week, you just can't realistically expect a relationship to be healthy and to last. And I started to really realize that. And I think that's kind of what kind of got the gears turning for me. And I started to kind of have the intention that I wanted to get away from alcohol a little bit, or at least have a little bit more control over it. Going out to the bars and drinking to where you barely remember it, or to where you're throwing up the next day because you're so hungover, or you're blowing like 100, 200, 300 bucks in a night drinking. It was stupid. And my early 20s was when I started to kind of like sever off from my friend group that was drinking so much. And I think that's the first big piece of advice that I have, is that, if you want to quit drinking or cut back on drinking or just get more control over it, you have to be very conscious and aware of who you're hanging out with. Because the reality is if you're hanging out with people that drink a lot, you're going to drink a lot. You only have so much willpower. You only have so much ability to say no. And one of the biggest mistakes I made when I was trying to stop drinking so much is that I would still go out to the bars and hang out with that same group of guys. I thought that I had the willpower to say no to 3 rounds of shots at the bar, or say no to staying out longer drinking. But in reality, I didn't. And it took me a little while to realize that, but what it really comes down to is, you're a product of your environment. And if you're hanging out with people that are always drinking, especially like binge drinking, you're going to be the next person in line to act that way. I think a big part of changing behavior is just recognizing environments and recognizing what you're putting yourself around. So I guess that's my first big piece of advice is, if you want to stop drinking, you have to stop hanging out with people that are always drinking. And this was tough for me because a lot of the guys I grew up with, a lot of the guys I grew up in high school, college, my life after college, it was all hanging out with similar guys. And unfortunately, they all drank so heavily. They're all big drinkers. And they still do to this day. So many of them still do. And it's kind of sad almost, because now that I've kind of separated myself in a sense, I can kind of see really how unhealthy it is for so many of them. And it's been difficult also because, when you do start to separate yourself from some of your friends, a lot of them will notice that. And they might start throwing jabs at you, or they might stop inviting you to stuff, or it might affect your friendship. And I think you're not going to change until you're serious about it, and until you're serious about prioritizing your own health and your own aspirations for your life. When you prioritize that over friendships. And unfortunately, I've noticed with myself that I've had to I wouldn't say completely sever, but I've had to distance myself from certain friendships, just because now that I don't drink as much anymore, we don't have as much in common. And it's sad. And I've always been the type that likes to stay loyal to friends, and I consider myself a loyal friend by any means. But I just realized that I had to be selfish if I actually wanted to change my behavior. Because if not, if I was giving into peer pressure constantly, or people pleasing and just accepting every invite out to the bars, I wouldn't be in any different of a situation now than I was 2-3 years ago, whenever I was acting a fool on the weekends with my friends. And I think the next big point, or the next big realization I came to, was that in order for me to actually stop drinking and do something different, hang out with different people, I had to have something else to replace it with. You can't just sit in your apartment and watch Netflix every Friday, Saturday night and think that is going to lead to you quitting alcohol and living a happier, healthier life. Because if anything, you'll probably just be miserable, be lonely, and then now you're just a loner who probably just drinks in his apartment by himself. But you got to replace it with something else that interests you, in a hobby of some sort. For me, I go hunting. So, I'll go hunting on a Saturday, Sunday morning, early in the morning, so that prevents me from going out and getting drunk the night before. Or I've gotten big into fitness in the gym, and a lot of times what I'll do on a Friday or Saturday night is just go to the gym with someone. So I'm still making plans, making social plans they're just revolving around different activities other than just bellying up to a bar all night. The third thing is that you have to have a reason why. And for me, I realized with my college relationship falling apart that if I want to have a good, healthy, happy relationship, I can't be drinking as much as I was. I can't be going out to the bars, partying, and expect to still have a healthy relationship. It's not realistic. It can't happen. So I knew that if I want to have a healthy relationship, I would need to have control over my drinking. And so that was one of the reasons. Another reason for me was that I've always wanted to be my own boss. I've always wanted to run my own business. I've always wanted to work for myself, right? And I knew that, I can't keep playing this game of being a weekend warrior where I go out on the weekends, get drunk, and then I just barely get by Monday through Wednesday because I'm still recovering from the weekend. That's just not possible as someone who is a business owner and who's running their own business. So I knew that, if I realistically wanted to have my own business someday, I couldn't be going out drinking and acting irresponsibly like I was. And it's something that, people always like to put off and have this idea in their head that, one day I'm going to get it together. But, when does one day actually come? And I think that kind of leads to my last and final point is that for me, it was a very gradual process. Some people can wake up and quit an addiction cold turkey. They can quit smoking cigarettes, or they can quit drinking alcohol, or quit whatever it is they're addicted to cold turkey and be successful with it. I'm not one of those people, and maybe that's just personal preference or just how I'm wired, but I can't do that. It's been a gradual process for me, and I'll say me wanting to cut back on drinking started probably a year, 2 years before I actually got to a point to where I could do it. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make here is that, it's small decisions that snowball or all come together into a big snowball of change. It's not usually one big decision that changes your whole life. For me, I've noticed that it's the small decisions I'm making on a day-to-day basis that are setting me up for success in the future. It's me prioritizing certain relationships more than others. Me prioritizing my relationship with my buddy who wants to go to the gym on a Saturday night as opposed to my buddy who wants to go out and take shots at the local bar. Or, me prioritizing my hobbies and interests and the people that are interested in the same things as opposed to me prioritizing a bar crawl on the weekends. So just like these little small decisions that I had to make on a day-to-day basis are kind of what would have actually allowed me to make change in my life and allow my life to still be enjoyable too, right? I think a lot of people when they quit something cold turkey, their life is just miserable then because they're just constantly thinking about it and fighting with the demons inside their head, and it's just this terrible internal battle that they're having with themselves. But for me, I think if you do it on a more gradual basis and just slowly cut out one thing of your life and replace it with another, and just slowly do that over time, it can create just a much healthier and more realistic and long-lasting habit or lifestyle change than trying to cut something out cold turkey. So I guess my point being with all of that is, don't get discouraged with yourself if you're struggling with quitting something, or if you can't go the whole month of January without drinking. Because for me, it was a very gradual process. But it was something that, needless to say, I was constantly thinking about, or was constantly in the back of my mind, and I was constantly trying to make small decisions to feed that intent, to feed that goal of getting away from drinking. So that was my kind of story, my progress with drinking and how it's affected me and impacted my life. I think alcohol is a really powerful drug. I really do. And the fact that it's so accepted and there's not really as much of a stigma around it as there is other drugs, I think is also what makes it so difficult and so hard to distance yourself from it. So many social events revolve around alcohol, and so many relationships and friendships even revolve around alcohol. And it's definitely something that you have to consciously put an effort towards in order to have a healthy relationship with it. But I look at some of my friends now, and they're still stuck in their ways. They're still stuck in that alcohol trap. They're still stuck in the routine of going out Thursday, Friday, Saturday night to the bars, getting drunk, staying out till 1 or 2 a.m. Then dragging throughout the work week, and then doing it all over again the following weekend. And they wonder why they aren't having success or finding healthy relationships, or they wonder why they're not having success with their career or job, or they wonder why their body isn't like they want it to be, or they're not in shape like they want to be. And I think so much of that is attributed back to bad alcohol habits. Don't get me wrong, I don't want people to get confused and think that I hate alcohol or I'm anti-alcohol, because I'm absolutely not. I'm about to go out with my girlfriend tonight, and we're probably gonna have a couple drinks. But like anything, in moderation, it can be great. If it's taken too far, though, it can be absolutely disastrous. So I just want more people to be aware of it, more people to know that there's other people like them that also have the same thoughts that they have. And if anyone wants to talk about it or start a discussion down in the comment section, let me know. I'll jump in and give my thoughts or perspectives on any questions or whatever else you guys have to say. So that's all I got. I don't want to keep rambling. Let me know what you guys think. If you agree, disagree, comment down in the comment section below. The usual YouTube lingo. Until next time, guys, I appreciate you, and peace.